Today, I'm Allison, and I work for the company that administers the SelpIP and also the CALE tests, which are tests that you need to take if you want to apply in your Canadian citizenship or your Canadian permanent residency application, or if you want to study at Canadian universities or colleges. So before we begin, I want to get to know you all a bit. So if we could go around in a circle and you can tell me your name, where you're from, and what do you think that you need the SelpIP or the CALE for? Are you trying to apply for permanent residency, citizenship, or are you trying to study for at Canadian universities or colleges? Did you want to start, or did you want to start here?
My name is Farzad Suri.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm a postdoc fellow in University of Ottawa, and I've chosen SelpIP IELTS as a requirement for applying for permanent residency.
Good.
Canadian permanent residency, actually.
Wonderful. And where are you from?
Iran.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Oh, okay, but I don't know you, so that's the thing.
My name is Kaveh,
Yeah.
Kaveh Shakuri.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm from Pan Settlement Services, so
Yeah. And does everyone know you here?
I think so.
Okay, wonderful.
Most of them.
Yeah, I'm Peyman Bashrui. I'm from Iran, and I'm doing my PhD at Telfer
Wow.
School of Management. It's my second year. I still have 2 years to apply for my permanent residency, but I just want to know more about my choices for actually language exams like IELTS and this one. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm here.
Wonderful.
My name is Amir. I'm also a Persian. I guess everyone in this group is Persian.
Anyone except for me. I'm not Persian.
That's amazing. I chose SelpIP because I've heard that it is more similar to what I previously practiced for TOEFL exam. It's a bit different than IELTS, so just what I heard.
Wonderful. And I hope during this presentation you find out more information, and please don't hesitate to ask questions, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to try and answer any questions that you do have. All right.
My name is Kushan. I apply for permanent resident, and I'm from Iran.
Oh, wonderful.
Hi everyone, my name is Sonia, and I have IELTS 6, but I am trying to have more marks in IELTS.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Samane. I'm from Iran, and now I'm here for only information because I have a baby.
Oh,
Not only for information.
wonderful.
What about baby?
Oh, if someone can make an introduction. Where's the baby?
Selena.
Oh,
Yeah? Yeah, is she, yeah? She was born here? Was she born here? Was the baby born here? Was the
14 February this 2019.
Oh, so was she born here?
2 months.
Yes,
Oh, so
born
she's
here.
Canadian, eh?
Yes,
She doesn't need to take the SelpIP test. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Actually, nice to see you. I'm Hamid, postdoc at the Ottawa. So for the new career, for the career at the university, I need to renew my English exam.
Wonderful.
Hi, my name is Azim. I'm here to get some information to choose which exam is better for applying in university.
Wonderful.
My name is Mohsen. I actually work at University of Ottawa. I came here to have more information about the SelpIP. I work in IELTS. But I know that these two exams is completely different exams. I hope to have more information about the SelpIP.
Wonderful.
My name is Ehsan. I'm Jody. I'm from Iran, and I'm a worker here, and I participate to get more information about it.
Hi, I'm Farzana. I'm applying for PR, so I need the language test.
Wonderful.
Hi, my name is Elham. I'm from Iran. I'm a PhD student, and I'm gonna take the CELPIP for permanent residency.
Wonderful.
yeah, Kamyar from Iran is the same, like for permanent residency. Resident, and I want to learn more about SelpIt. Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Haydar. I graduated last December and now I have a work permit and I'm applying for the permanent residence.
This is Lina, and I have a plan to study as an international student, but I don't know is it the SelpIt work for me or no, because I have no idea. I have to do IELTS or SelpIp. Which one? It's my question.
Wonderful. So, we're just doing introductions now. So I know, you could take off your jacket and then tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, where you're from, and why you're here today. So, can you tell us your name and also where you're from and why you're here today?
Yes, I am Mariam.
Hello.
And I'm from Iran. As a PhD student, I'm here, but as a PhD student.
Oh, wonderful. So it was really great to hear about who you are, because for me it's not when I do a presentation, it's not just about myself. It's more about knowing how I can know about you a little bit so that I can make sure that the information that I provide is relevant to you. So a little bit of introduction to myself. I'm Allison and I work for Paragon Testing Enterprises, which administers the CELPIP and also the CALE test. So the CELPIP test is a test that people take. It's the only Canadian test that people can take to get permanent residency or citizenship status in their Canadian immigration application. And CALE is our other test, which is accepted by over 180 universities and colleges across Canada, from the certificate level all the way to the PhD level. So a little bit about myself. I'm also an immigrant. I was born in Hong Kong, but I moved to Canada, to Vancouver, when I was 5 years old. So I've been in Canada for more than 20 years, and I am very much, I consider myself more to be Canadian than Hong Kong. I've been from Hong Kong, so, but at the same time, I also know that I'm very much an immigrant, so I share some of the experiences that you have. So my job is to, as a stakeholder relations specialist, is to make sure that you feel prepared, that you have the information that you need when you're taking the CELPIP test. So we can't give you the answers, but we can try to prepare you as much as possible. And part of that is by hosting sessions like these, workshops like these, so that you get to know what types of questions that we ask and what the raters are looking for. So I'm based in Vancouver, and I just wanted to thank Kaval and Mirshad and everyone at PAN for this invitation to be here today, because I get to talk to you and I get to know about what you need. We'll appreciate every feedback that you have as well. So let's get started. So this is the agenda for today. We're going to go over what CELPIP is, and then we're going to go over what the test format is, including what the raters are looking for, and also test-taking strategies. So I prefer to sprinkle test-taking strategies throughout the entire presentation. So you're not going to get one slide with all the test-taking strategies. My style is more so to, when I see something, I'm going to give you a tip. So speaking of that, I just wanted to thank you all for being here by giving you a pen each, everyone a pen. And I'm also going to hand out a package, so in case you don't have a piece of paper, you can write on the back of it, but please don't look at it, because we're going to use this at the end of this presentation. So, here, yeah, you could take one and pass along. And then we're also going to go over some test preparation materials, like what are materials available, and also what are some strategies. So the reason why you have this package is because at the end of this presentation, we're going to go over some sample responses by real test takers. So please don't look through it, because then, we'll go over it later. Because you'll hear the clips first, and then you'll be able to, see what the answers look like. So, what is CELPIP? So, the summary of CELPIP is that when you apply in your application for permanent residency and citizenship, you have two options. You can either take the CELPIP test or you can take the IELTS. So, we think you should take the IELTS. We think you should take the CELPIP test because the CELPIP test is a Canadian test. And what country are you in right now? You're in Canada, right? So, so that since the CELPIP test is a Canadian test, we use Canadian accents and also Canadian vocabulary. So with the IELTS test, you're going to hear accents from all over the world. The other day I was on a flight and I was watching Mary Poppins 2, the movie, and they were speaking in British accents, and I couldn't understand half the things they were saying. So, and I consider myself to have a quite high level of English. So a lot of people do find that the CELPIP test is easier to understand and also to get higher marks on. We are a subsidiary of University of British Columbia, but we do have an arm's length relationship with them because the UBC does accept CALE, and we don't want to make sure that there's no conflict of interest. But we do have that legitimacy and also that strong research development that originated at UBC. I'm going to go through a couple of slides really quickly. This is what CELPIP stands for.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So you said it's based on Canadian standards. So, like, for example, if you type color with just one O instead of OU,
yeah, that's fine.
That's fine, or
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Like the raters are trained to like. There's a couple of things that the raters are trained to not like take into account in terms of your marks. For example, the spelling. If you spell color without the U, that's fine. Those things, and the raters are also trained to not take into your accent into account as well. So we can go into that more, but good question to start off the presentation. So there are two CELPIP tests. There's the CELPIP general test, which tests you on 4 components: listening, reading, speaking, and writing. And it's used for permanent residency and also other organizations, such as if you want to become an immigration consultant, they also take the CELPIP test as well. There's also the CELPIP LS test, which is when you want to apply for Canadian citizenship. They only test you on 2 components, the listening and the speaking components. But hearing all of your stories, it seems like you all need to take the CELPIP general test. So in Canada, it's $280 plus tax, and it takes about 3 hours to do. But the great thing about it is that you get it all done in one session. So you save you time and it saves you money in terms of because it's not just about the 3 hours during the test. You have to spend time getting to the test center, and you have to spend time out of your day to find parking, all that kind of thing, right? So if you just go in one session, it saves you a lot of time and money. So CELPIP, we have test centers across Canada, but in the past year and a half, we've also expanded rapidly internationally. So we have expanded in the United States. We've also opened a test center in Dubai. We've also opened a test center in Manila, China, CALE test centers in China, and CELPIP test centers in India as well. And this is usually how a test center looks like. You see that you're given headphones, you're also given a mic, and then you're also sitting in these cubicles. You see that there's privacy shields to block other people out, and you can also see how there's like a computer there with a laptop, not a desktop, or sometimes a laptop, and also a mouse and a keyboard. We also give you earplugs so you can block out noise if you would like. I mentioned a couple of reasons why I choose CELPIP. This is the breakdown of how much time each component takes, and we'll go over them. So the first component is the listening test. So,
These items are for the general or for the adult?
This is for permanent residency. We also have CALE. So afterwards I can talk a little bit about CALE because there's some similarities between CELPIP and CALE in the sense that they're both computer delivered, and the functions that you'll see on this screen, like for example the timers and also the next button and also the audio, the functions, the mechanics of it is similar to CALE, but the questions and the content are different. But I can tell you a little bit more about CALE as well later on. So this is how the listening portion looks like. This is the screen you'll see. So you can see that there's a timer. So that's one benefit of the CELPIP and the CALE test, is that you don't need to look around for a clock or like, you know, have your watch, looking at your watch to see how much time you have left. Because the timer on the computer will tell you how much time you have left for each component. And then you'll also be able to see if the tools are working. The blue will indicate if the audio is playing correctly. Did you have the pens too? Oh, here you go. Thanks. The blue will indicate if the audio is playing, and then with the listening section, the question will come up first. The audio will come up first, and then the question will pop up. So one of the tools that we provide for you, because we really want you to succeed, we really want you to demonstrate the best English that you can, is that we give you a pen and also a piece of paper. That's one of the reasons why I'm giving you a pen and a piece of paper here. So we encourage you to use that so it doesn't become a memorization test, so that when you're hearing the audio, take notes, take key notes. One of the study tips that I would recommend is, do you know the 5 W's and 1 H? Yeah? Yeah? What are they? Who, what, when, where, why, and how, right? So that's a really quick study tip we do recommend that you keep in mind when you are hearing these details. Who's talking, and I'll go into further depth about that, but yeah, things to keep in mind when you're hearing the clip. Take notes, and then so that when the question pops up, the question on the right pops up, you'll be able to refer to your notes, and then select an option. So I just also want to point out something that with the listening and also the reading component, it's all multiple choice, and there's only 4 options. And one of the study tips that we recommend is that you always pick an answer, even if you don't know the answer. Yeah, either use the process of elimination. So you have 4 answers. You always only have 4 answers. So you have 1 in 4 chance of getting the answer right, right? And then so eliminate in your head like which answer is not correct, and then narrow it down. Because if you don't answer the question, you won't get any marks at all. But if you answer a question incorrectly, you won't get marks taken off. So you have nothing to lose by answering every question, even if you don't know the answer. Okay, so before you hear the audio on the test, you'll get some information about what you'll be hearing. So we'll provide you with some context as to what you'll be hearing. So you won't be going in blind. And the preview might be an image with a sentence, or it might be just a sentence or 2. So sometimes you have this picture, sometimes you'll just have the words. And you'll have some time to read the words as well. So there's always begin, for the listening, reading, and also the speaking component, we always begin with a practice task. And that practice task is not rated. It is to make sure that your equipment is working. So for example, for the listening component, to make sure that you are able to hear the sample audio, and also psychologically it's also to help you with your nerves, to calm you down, because so that it's okay to make a mistake on your first question, so because you know that it's not marked, right? So, yeah, the practice task. So if there's an issue with your equipment, you can put your hand up, and then the invigilator can help you with it. So there's also conversations and also single speakers in the types of audio passages that you'll hear. So I now want to emphasize that the material that we ask you on the SelfIt test is very relevant to living and working in Canada. So for example, the listening portion, right? You are now participating in the listening portion of the SelfIt test. But in real life, you usually don't get a pen and a piece of paper to write things down. But with the SelfIt test, we want to help you. So we give you the pen and the piece of paper. So, I mean, think about it. Like when you're living and you are working in Canada, you will be, like, you're often hearing conversations. And often you'll be asked, what do you think? And you'll be asked to, you know, provide your feedback to it, right? So, you know, it's like normal life. And single speaker, like, examples include, for example, news, right? If you're listening to the radio, if you're listening to news, hearing what people are saying and being able to understand the English that they're saying. Yeah?
If there's any problem with the equipment, will they replay the conversation for you, or just give you some more time, or it just passes?
Oh,
time
no.
passes and you'll have no time to
No. So if there's problems, they'll stop your test, and then they'll try to fix it, and then like you'll still be able to finish the test.
Okay.
Yeah. So we always make sure that you do have the time that you need. So if it's like a problem with the equipment, we will stop the test. So don't worry, you can finish it. Okay, so we talked about the practice task. Sample questions. So the situations on the conversations may range from very informal to somewhat formal. And these conversations are conversations you'll hear, you know, on a day-to-day basis, right? For example, if you're taking the bus, or if you are at work and you're hearing conversations between people. Some conversations might be broken down into smaller chunks, but most will always be played in full. So, what should you identify when you're listening to conversations? I mean, we just talked about it, right? So, here are some of the tips that we have. So, I did mention, this is basically a summary of the who, what, when, where, why, how. So, who are the speakers? When you're listening to a conversation, take notes. Who are the speakers? How do they know each other? What are they talking about? If there's a problem, what is it? How do they feel about it? And what is the solution to this problem? So, we're now going to go over a sample audio. Is the audio functioning?
Know where the playground is?
Okay, hold on. Let's redo this again.
This is the last stop. Watch your step on the way out, ma'am.
Thanks, driver. Do you happen to know where the little kids' playground is? I know it's in the park somewhere. Too bad I forgot my smartphone.
There are a few playgrounds here. Do you mean the one next to the water fountain?
No, the one I'm thinking of is just beside the petting zoo. You know, where there's goats and rabbits?
Yeah, I know there's a petting zoo, but I don't know where it is exactly. Anyway, I'm pretty sure there's a children's playground over there, past the restaurant. Maybe you could take a look over that way.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Thanks very much.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is that, so you've heard that audio clip, right? Usually you hear that clip and then the question will pop up. So based off what you heard, what do you think the answer is of one of the choices here? You can just yell it out. Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Question 2.
What best describes the driver's response?
Second one.
Yes. So congratulations.
Question 2.
hold on. So congratulations, this is what happens when you make select an answer.
Question 2.
Oh.
What?
So congratulations, you all have just answered your first SelfIt question correctly. Yeah, so that was the correct answer. The answer is the driver mix, I guess. So congratulations. First SelfIt answer correct. So another type of conversation that you'll hear on the SelfIt test are conversations between people. So sometimes they might be on video or they have an image. So what should you do when you hear a conversation using a clip or an image? So one of the tips that we do encourage you to do is to look for visual clues, right? What do you notice here? We gave you the answers here. So look for example, facial expressions. Because facial expressions express how people are feeling. The body language, posture, setting, where are they? The type of clothing. For example, in this picture, what do you think? What setting do we think they are in, and what do you think they are talking about? Yeah, they seem like they're in an office, right? And it seems like that this man isn't necessarily happy, and then it looks like that the other two people are trying to, help the man feel better, right? So these are things that you should also take notes on as well. And sometimes the questions for an audio passage are all on one screen, like this image. So what should you be listening for when you're listening to something? Listen for clues in people's speech, pauses, intonations, stress words, and also look for the main topic, key details, facts, or opinions. So the next button, so what happens if you finished a question or a section earlier and you want to move on? You can press the next button. So the good thing about it is that you don't need to keep waiting. You can finish the test faster, but if you click next, you can't go back, and you also can't use the time for your next sections. And okay, so note-taking. Note-taking is a very important skill, not just on the test, but also in real life as well. So some note-taking tips that we do have, because note-taking, it's about taking notes, right? You don't want to write down everything, right? So the point of note-taking is to write down the key points, so that it helps you remember. I'll give you a few minutes to read through the slide. Okay, so
we have the chance to replay the audio or watch the movie?
So the audio only plays once.
Even
yeah.
the question?
The audio only plays once. But think about it, like, it might seem that kind of scary, but think about it, like, when you are in real life, you usually get to hear the conversation once, right? So often you're not able to say, hey, can you repeat that again? For example, if you're listening to the radio, right, you can't ask the radio to repeat it again because they can't hear you, right? So it might seem hard, but it's just an example of, the English and communication skills that you do need.
And how many questions associated with each section?
Yeah, so there are, I believe, 8 tasks. Just give me one moment. So yeah, with the listening portion, there are, hold on. There are 6. So what we'll do after is that we'll go on to the CELPIP.ca website, and I'll show you how you can find this information. Okay, so people often ask how many questions do you need to get right, and we've highlighted 2. The 4 is if you want to get apply for Canadian citizenship. That's the minimum you need. The majority of you are applying for permanent residency, and so therefore it really depends on your application, but usually the minimum score you need is a 7. So how does that translate into the listening section? That means that of a score out of 38, you need to get at least 27 of those 38 questions right. So we put this here because some people get really technical, and we just provide you this information. Here are some listening strategies. We went over them already, but focus on what you understand rather than what you don't. Take useful notes, listen for main points, recognize key details, listen for intonation and pauses, look for paraphrased ideas in answer choices, eliminate incorrect answers, and answer every question, even if you're not sure. Okay, so the second component is the reading test.
Sorry, before going to the reading test, I want to ask what type of question there is in the listening test. Is all of the questions is just in multiple choice, or there's other things like blank and you should fill something?
Oh, don't worry.
You should type some, because in the IELTS you should fill some blank and you should write, and the spelling is really very important.
Yeah.
That's here.
Yeah, for the CELPIP test, you never need to fill in the blank, and you never need to do drop down. So it's all multiple choice for listening and reading. But for CALE, it's a different matter. For CALE, CALE is the test to go to Canadian universities and colleges. You do need to fill in the blank, and you do need to do drop down and other things. But for the CELPIP, no, you don't. It's all multiple choice, and you only get four answers in one question.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
In this listening part, we have 6 tests.
Yes.
Probably 6 or 7 questions each test. The timer that is showing up there, is it for each task or for the whole listening part?
Oh no, it's for each task. Yeah. So, for example, so the questions for all components, they get harder. So, for example, for the listening test, task 1, listening to problem solving, there's 11 audio clips. There's 8 questions, but remember it's multiple choice, right? And you get 8 minutes to do that one task. And then the next task, listening to a daily life conversation, you get 6 audio clips, and then you get 5 minutes to do that task, and you also get 5 questions. So I will show you on the website later on where you can find all this information about how much time you have left to do each. Okay, so for the reading test, how it's different from the listening is that your questions are also shown with the passage that you're asked to read. So if the answers are shown with the passage, what should you do first?
Maybe as a good option, it would be better for us to at least skim the questions.
Yes, so read the question first.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a study tip that we have for the reading portion. Read the question first. Look at your options, and then read the passage. So we recommend that because it's a time management tactic too, right? You have a limited amount of time, but you will be able to finish it. So if you read the question first and you read the answers, then we recommend that you, first of all, skim the passage and then read it in depth. And so you can always change your answer. So for example, if you select an answer, you don't need, it's not final until the timer runs out or until you press next. So we just talked about all of that, and answer all the questions. So there are 3 main reading skills that we're going to discuss that the computer is looking for and that we test you on. If you can identify which skill you need to use to answer each question, it can help you answer the question more carefully. So what does general meaning, specific information, and inference mean? General meaning, it asks you to identify the topic, theme, or main idea. So we encourage you to focus on the overall idea in a text. The specific information, we ask you to identify key information, supporting details, opinions, or examples, and we ask you to focus on understanding specific details. And inference, which is a harder skill to have, we ask you to identify implicit information, including an author's purpose, tone, or attitude. So basically we're asking you to make assumptions based on the information you're given. And focus on drawing conclusions or making assumptions based on information in the text. So, let's spend a few minutes answering a sample question. So, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to, go over the tactics that we just discussed. So read the question first. So the question we're answering is question number 2. And then read the passage. And then we're going to go over where you can find the answer and also what is the correct answer. Okay, so when you're ready, you can just yell out the answer. What do you think the answer is? Yes. Well, and my next slide shows, yes, that we've highlighted where you can find the answer. So, congratulations, you have also answered your first SelpIp reading question correctly, also known as your second SelpIp question correctly. So, congratulations. So, we also get asked this question, how many questions do you need to get correct on the reading test? So, for citizenship, you need at least SelpIp 4, and for permanent residency, you need to get at least a 7, also known as you need to get at least 24 to 28 out of 38 correct. I know that for those who are going through express entry, you actually might need a 9, SelpIp 9 or CLB 9. So you might need to get at least 31 of the 38 questions correct. But that's okay, because I believe in you, and you can do it. Here are some reading strategies we do have. Skim the text, aim for general understanding, read the question, and then scan the text to find the answer. Watch for main ideas and key details to be paraphrased in answer choices. Eliminate incorrect answers. Keep moving through the questions. Make sure that you answer everyone before the time is up. And finally, answer every question even if you're not sure. Okay, so the third component of the SelpIp test is the writing test. Yes?
Excuse me, can I share my experience about reading? Because I took part in SelpIp test last week in University of Ottawa. I think one of the most important things about the reading test or reading section is that you prepare yourself for everything that would be some kind of block on your concentration. For me, what happened was that when I started the reading section, the candidate who was beside me, he started to, and I lost my whole concentration.
Oh, okay.
So you must know that it's probable for you that on the time that you started the reading section, the person who is beside you starts speaking. You must be prepared for that.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And it was really confusing for me.
And actually not even at reading, when you start speaking, because the whole class are speaking at the same time. So
Okay.
you can't really concentrate on your speaking
Exactly.
as well.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
And
That's a good point, and I'm happy to talk about it right now because I was going to talk about it later. But let's talk about this right now. The elephant in the room. That it is inevitable that since you're just in cubicles, you're not in your own separate room,
no,
right?
you don't have that much privacy.
Yeah.
You can hear all of the sounds and voices, and it's distracting.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? When I started working at so everyone who starts working at Paragon has to take the CELPIP test. So we understand how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
So when I took the CELPIP test, I was taking it with a bunch of my new colleagues. We were sitting next to each other in the test center. So one of the tips that I've realized as a result of that experience is to first of all ask for earplugs. So you won't be automatically given the earplugs, but basically ask for earplugs. And once you are done the listening section, put your earplugs in and put your headphones in too, even though you're not using your headphones, because then that blocks out more noise. So that's one tip. Another tip that I do have for that is practice doing the CELPIP test in this environment where it's kind of busy, so that you can hear other people. For example, in a in a cafeteria or in a cafe, or even in the common space, like where they don't require you to be silent, and just sit there with your laptop and do the practice test. So focus and practice on blocking out everything, all the noise, and take it. No one really likes taking tests. If you really like taking tests, I admire you. I don't really like taking tests either, but it's also test taking is different from regular English, because a lot of people, it's like driving exam, right? Like, I thought I knew how to drive, and then the driving examiner failed me, not once but twice. So it's same situation, right? Like, people think that they are able to do either speak English or drive, but then test taking, like when you're going for your driving exam or your English test exam, is different. So that's why we encourage you to really put yourself in the worst environment ever. I was reading this article about how people who performers, for a ballet company, or going to Juilliard, actually, people going to Juilliard, how they're able to present the best version of them is because their instructors deliberately put them in situations where there's a lot of noise or a lot of distractions thrown at them, so that when it's time for them to do their audition for this really important Juilliard audition for this company, that anything that happens, that anything they hear, they're not fazed by it. So it is a test taking and strategy. So in short, I recommend that you use your headphones, use your earplugs, and then also practice in an environment where it's kind of busy. Practice all components. And I'll talk about later about how we're going to support you in that endeavor. So the third component is the writing task. And there's only 2 tasks. Congratulations. There's only 2 tasks. So this is how it looks like. So you're going to get a background information. You're going to get, what are you supposed to be doing? And then you're going to be getting the instructions. And then you also get a countdown timer to see how much time you have left. So the first task, you have 27 minutes to do. And the second task, you have 26 minutes to do. And the great thing about the CELPIP test is that since it's a computer-delivered test, you automatically get a word count. So you need to write between 150 to 200 words. So it saves you time because you don't have to hand count how many words you've written. We also give you editing tools, such as if you misspell a word wrong, you get a red squiggly line at the bottom that tells you that you misspelled a word. We won't tell you exactly how to spell it, but at least you know, right? And so that's something there. We also give you features such as editing tools like cut and paste. So if you wrote something and then you decide that, this fits better here, then you don't have to erase everything and then write it all over again. You can just select that text and move it. Just like if you're writing an email or, on Microsoft Word. Okay, so when you see a task, you need to work through a couple of steps. First of all, how long do you have? Second of all, how much do you need to write, which is about 150 to 200 words. And don't worry, you can finish this task even if you write at 40 or 50 words per minute. So 150 might seem like a lot of words, but don't worry, you can do it. And you have plenty of time. Next, think about what do you need to write about. So we're not going to fact check anything. You can still make things up. You can even say, in 2016, Bernie Sanders got elected. We wish, right? But and we're not going to fact check it. As long as your technical English is correct, that's what we'll look at. And what should you do? So use your own words. So don't copy the words from the instructions. And also try to organize your ideas before you start writing. So you can either use that screen you do have right there and organize your thoughts, or you can write things down. So a tip that I do have for the writing component is use the 1, 2, 3. It's what we called in at university. So first of all begin with an introduction, okay? And your introduction for both tasks, you want to write, if it's an email, you want to address the person, and then but you also want to have an introductory paragraph where you basically say this is what I'm going to talk about, right? And then the second the second part is like the body of the text, okay? The body is where you talk about your points, explain why you're making these points. So give examples and explain why. So make sure that you try not to have everything in just one paragraph. Make sure you space it out as well, appropriately. And then the third component, a conclusion. So finish by saying, and therefore I think you should do this and this and this, or therefore I think this is what should happen. And then if it's an email, sign off by being like your name there. So that's one really study tip. Remember the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. So this is relevant not only in the email, but also in the second task, which is responding to survey questions. So, okay, and how formal or informal your email should be depends on the context. So the second task is responding to survey questions.
Just a question.
Yes.
Task 1 is always an email?
The first one is always an email. Yeah. And then the second task is always responding to survey questions. One of the questions that responding to survey questions, I would encourage you to, follow the format of the introduction, the body, and also the conclusion. And so there's no right answer, so you can pick option A or B. It does not matter which one you pick. What matters though, and which option should you pick, is that we encourage you to look at where you feel that you can best demonstrate your best English. Which option do you feel you have the stronger vocabulary for? Okay? And should the response be in an email format? The answer is no. This is an opinion piece. There's no need to use an email format. So what are the raters looking for? So for the writing and also the speaking component, it's rated by raters. So these raters, they work from home, probably in their pajamas, not gonna lie. Because if you work from home, who wouldn't want to work in your pajamas? And they don't know each other. They don't know anything about you or your where you're from or anything like that. All they know is that they need to mark your test by this date. So this is what the raters are looking for. And this is really important because when you're practicing for your CELPIP test, we want you to remember these things. these 4 categories, so that when you're doing your test, write down and ask yourself, how is my content coherent? So what's the number of my ideas, quality of my ideas, how are they organized, what about examples, and then vocabulary, and then there's also the readability and also task fulfillment as well. So basically, the better you can do at these 4 components, the better. And also, you don't need to write these things down because I've enclosed it in here. So it's in your handout, but we'll go over it later on because we'll go over some sample questions. So don't worry about writing this down, it's here. And at least 4 raters rate your test. So people find that the SelfIt test is more fair because it's not just one person rating your speaking or your writing, because there's so many people rating it. And this is basically another way to summarize the categories. Here are some writing strategies that we recommend that you do. Read all instructions carefully. Spend a few minutes brainstorming and organizing your ideas, either on the response or either on your pen and your paper. Focus on the quality and the number of ideas. Provide logical support for your ideas where it's possible. Use descriptive words. Use joining words and phrases. Use appropriate tone. Make sure you've done everything you were asked to do, and also review your work. Okay, so the last component is the speaking test.
Excuse me, about the writing, we shouldn't worry about the variety of grammar that we have to use. So, for example, in IELTS, there is a specific criteria to assess your variety of grammar that you use in your essay. So I didn't see anything about that in your assessment criteria there. So.
Yeah, your grammar does matter. Very much. The performance standards that what we do have here are listed here, but I do know what you're talking about. The IELTS does have a more like rubric. Right now we don't have that for the public yet, but we are working on it. Yeah, but right now I think we'll go over some sample questions, and then you'll be able to see how people have done well, and also compare it to this and how you can do better as well.
Sorry,
yeah.
What about the misspelling? Is there anything, for example, when we write an email, there is a system automatically find your misspelling. Is there the same system in the writing session or not?
Is there, pardon?
Yeah, for example,
Grammar
if you
Grammar
misspell, no grammar check, misspell. For example, if you write speak, S-P-A-E-K,
yeah.
the system alarm you, for example, underline it by a red line or not.
Yeah, so if you misspell a word, you will get a red line underneath it saying that you misspelled it. But we won't tell you how to spell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can use it without penalty. Because, yeah, so when I did the SelfIt test, I was kind of hard, scared to use that function. I was like, is this a test? Are they going to take marks off if I use the spell check? No, they're not going to. So you can use it without penalty, and the writers actually won't know if you actually use the spell check. So we want, yeah.
So this certificate is unlimited, or is the same IELTS for 2 years, except for the university, college, or other?
Yeah. So basically, think of CELPIP General is basically IELTS General is basically CELPIP General's competitor, but CELPIP is Canadian. So it's also only valid for 2 years. So IELTS scores are only valid for 2 years, and also CELPIP scores are also valid for 2 years as well. So CALE is the Canadian competitor to IELTS Academic. So think of, we're basically competitors. That's the way to think. Okay, so the last part of this SelfIt test is the speaking test, and it is quite short. It only takes about 20 minutes. you have your preparation time, which you're usually given 30 to 60 seconds to prepare. So this is the time where you should take out your pen and also your paper to write down your notes and your ideas. And then you have, depending on the task, you have 60 to 90 seconds to talk. There are 8 questions in the test, so it gets progressively harder. You also see a countdown timer to see how much time you have left to prepare. The recording timer will move as you speak to show you how much time you have left. So that's the blue one. Try to speak for as long as possible, but try to time it that, like when the blue is near the end, you're just wrapping up what you're trying to say. Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to show you a function. So to make sure that your speaker is working, you'll see that this bar moves up and down to indicate that your response is moving. So during your practice task, if this bar isn't moving, you're in trouble because your mic is not working. So put your hand up and ask the invigilator to help you fix it as soon as possible. Also, when you're speaking, make sure that the bar doesn't fall too low, because then that means that the mic can't really hear you, and if the mic can't really hear you, that means that the raters won't be able to hear you very well as well. So you want to keep it at a good medium like here. The recording will also stop if no sound is detected. So here are the questions that we do ask. So there's 2 task types. There's a task with text only, and there's also tasks with text and images. So remember in the listening component, we gave you some tips on what you should be looking for during the audio, during the task with the clips, right? So same principle applies. Like look for cues, you know, of what you're seeing to help you. One of the tips that I do have for the task with text and the image is to pretend you're on the phone and you're seeing something and you're telling your friend about it. Sorry, don't tell not your friend, because you might be using too casual language. Pretend you're telling your boss about it, right? So we'll go through, we'll show you an example. Okay, this is an example of a task with text only. So for the text only task, you might have to come up with your own ideas or opinions. And that's fine. You can make things up as long as you answer the question. Make sure you stay on topic during the response and also provide as much supporting information as you can. For the speaking component, I would encourage you to also use the technique we talked about in the writing component, right? Your introduction, your body. Your body is where you talk about your examples and also why you're justifying what you're going to talk about, and also your concluding points, being like, and therefore I think you should do this. Use your preparation time to read the instructions and identify the things you have to talk about. So for example, what I would do on my piece of paper is that I would write down, if I see this, I would write down, talk about a great time when I had with my family or member or friend. So for me, how I would answer this question is that on my piece of paper, I will write Europe, because before I got this job working at Paragon, I spent 6 months backpacking in Europe. So it was a really great time I had. And I spent the first half of that backpacking with my best friend Katie. So I would write Europe as like the main topic, because that's what I'm going to talk about. And then in the body, and then I'm going to write down in my notes, the body, you know, I'm going to provide 3 points. I'm going to write down, I'm going to talk about, you know, there was like a big adventure. And I'm going to talk about when we went hiking, even though I was really sick in Albania. And then I'm going to talk about, like a third example I'm going to provide is about how, you know, when we stopped traveling together, when my friend had to start her job, we talked every day until she lost her phone. So, and then I would conclude that by saying, you know what, Europe was such a great time for me because I built such a strong relationship with my best friend. And she was already my best friend when we started. So, that's what I would do. That's how I would answer this question. But so do note that I started with the introduction, the body with the examples, and also the conclusion. So the task with the text and also an image. So my study tip for you is that you'll need to describe the picture. So pretend you're on the phone with your boss. And that's one key tip I would like to tell you about. So people ask, how formal should my English be? How formal or informal should my English be? The answer is, I believe that you should treat your SelpIP test like you are in a job interview or you're talking to your boss. So therefore you want this element of formality and professionalism, but at the same time you also want that likability, right? So you want the job interviewer to like you. You want your boss to like you. Okay? So that's my answer. So how formal or informal should your writing and also your speaking component be? Pretend you're in a job interview. And also, pay attention to the instructions, because your boss won't be happy if you were told to do something, but then you didn't follow the instructions. So the answer could be correct, but then if you didn't do it right, do what your boss asked you to do, it's not going to be right. And this is what the raters are looking for too. I've also enclosed it in this package, so you don't need to write it down. And then these are guiding questions. So in case you don't remember like all these things, you can, this is like a summary of those things. And here are some speaking strategies. Use your preparation time to write down your ideas and vocabulary. Speak for the full recording time. Use descriptive details to make your response interesting. Use logical support when presenting your viewpoint. Use good intonation. Correct your mistakes. Try to minimize your pauses and interjections. And use an appropriate tone for the situation. So people often ask us as well, like, so they need a CLP level score X, Y, Z. What SelpIP score do they need? The great thing about this is that you don't need to do any translation. If you need a CLP 7, you need a SelpIP level 7. And this is what each component means. So how do you prepare for the SelpIP test aside from attending the session? If you go to selpip.ch/free, we have a bunch of free resources for you. And this page isn't like on our website. It's like it is on our website, but you can't like find it if you go to like the navigation. We also have online study materials such as practice tests, and also online study programs such as the SelpIP Accelerate, which I'll talk about in a little bit. We also have print materials. You can buy them, or you can also find them at the Ottawa Public Library. So if you go, so the Ottawa Public Library does have a bunch of these books. Some people are writing a bunch of things down, so I'll wait.
Do you offer mock tests as well?
We don't at the moment. So you can. So for those things, we recommend that you go to SelpIP preparation programs. So SelpIP preparation, if they're like in person, you have to pay. Like it varies, but the people who offer SelpIP preparation, they have to attend instructor training. They also have to be vetted too. So they have to show us proof of, that they have a TESOL certificate, that kind of thing, and then they can buy our books and then they can run their own program. That's one of the benefits of attending preparation programs. So we just sell them the teachers the books, and like their credentials is also up to you to look at.
Sorry, can I find this in the library, or I have to pay and buy?
Yeah, so you can find a bunch of these books at the public library, but I just checked yesterday, and there's a hold on it. So if you would like to have these books, you should go onto the Ottawa Public Library or other public libraries you go to, and like put a hold on them soon.
And also I found your YouTube channel very useful because there are lots of instruction videos.
Thank you.
And specifically for listening section, the third part, I mean the speaking between three people. So I think your YouTube channel would be very useful for us.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, thank you so much. I will definitely go onto that page after, But yeah, thank you so much.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm about 2 years here. I don't have a PR. Can I do CELPIP and apply for university or college or no?
So that would be CAEL,
Yeah.
CAEL.
Yeah.
That is another test. It is kind of similar in the sense that, the computer functions are very similar, but the types of questions are different. So for that, I'm happy to send you some information about it as well. I'll also send you some YouTube links.
They accept that, or they need IELTS, or
No.
or same?
Oh no. So it really depends on the program, but which institution are you applying for?
I don't have any idea for now.
Okay, but
yeah.
over 180 institutions accept CAEL. So what I could do is that I can send you more information about it, including some YouTube videos that we've created, and there's also a lot of free webinars that you can attend.
But I asked Algonquin College, and they told me you have to do IELTS.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's.
So that's the thing. So we only acquired CAEL from Carleton just like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
So actually, there are many people who don't know about CAEL.
Oh.
So it might be that too. So what we could do, I'm happy to review, go to the website and also look at to really verify if because I know Algonquin College does accept CAEL. It's probably the registrar just probably doesn't know about CAEL because most people don't know about CAEL.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm happy to help you with it after this. Yeah. Okay, so if you are on more advanced level of English and you would, which seems like the majority of you are because I'm hearing your English and it sounds pretty, intermediate to advanced. So SelfIt Focus is a really good book. It's also available at the Ottawa Public Library as well, but you can also buy it. It's $32 each. But the SelfIt Focus, it's a more intermediate level because it goes into analyses. So to get the most out of this SelfIt Focus series, you need to have like a more intermediate to level of English because there's a lot of reading involved, but it will help you very much because there's answer keys, there's also time management keys, time management tips, and analysis of sample responses from real test takers. So here are more test preparation resources. We have all of our webinars are free. We have our free information session every Thursday, which is more general than this one. This workshop goes more into depth. But the SelfIt Speaking Pro is a really great webinar. Registration fills up really quickly, so I think the SelfIt Speaking Pro, they're full for the month of May. So go onto our website to see if there's any spots available for the June session. But if you miss it, you can also watch the session on YouTube as well. The SelpIp Accelerate is also a really great online study tool. It's only $25 each, or if you buy it in a bundle, it's only $40 each, and you get a 3-month subscription to it. What's so great about the SelpIp Accelerate is that you get more than 30 short instructional videos. You also get more than 30 interactive quizzes, and science and research has proven that people tend to retain more information and they tend to do better when they become a teacher. So that's why we've introduced the Rate the Response feature, which puts you in a position of being the teacher. So you can see how real test takers have answered questions, and you can then rate the response. I mentioned quickly earlier that you can also do in-person preparation. So you have to pay extra for it, and it is significantly more expensive than the CELPIP Accelerate. But you will get like a person who will be able to tutor you. Yeah. So we talked about the English test for going to university and college. This is CALE, the Canadian Academic English Language Assessment. It has similarities with CELPIP in the sense that it's the same technical interface, like for example, a lot of the screens are the same, but then we have we don't have just multiple choice, we have fill in a blank, and we have other things. Basically, if you take the CALE, you're going to feel more prepared to communicate in English when you go to a Canadian university or college. And if you have any questions, please email us at info@selpip.ca. You can also call us as well, but the best way to do this is to email us. And also, when you email us, a tip is to, if you have a registration number already, provide us with your registration number. So I'll go through questions first, but I'll go to questions later. But I want to go over some sample responses, and then I'll go over some questions. So what we're going to do is that you'll play a clip, and you will read this question, okay? And okay, so this is the question, and then I'm going to play a clip by a real test taker, how she's answered the question. And what we're going to do is that we're going to go to page 2 of your handout, and based off the criteria, you're going to listen while you listen to the clip. You're going to assess her, and you're going to afterward you're going to guess out of a CLB level 12 what did she get and why. Like, you want to look at this chart and you want to think about where did she do well and where could she have improved.
Hey Julie, I've heard that your sisters are coming to visit you soon, and you told me that they love to eat and they like good food. I think you should definitely take them to the city center. They have a lot of really great restaurants up there. I'm not sure what are the food preferences, but they have pretty much everything up there. There is a great pizza in the Italian restaurant. Can't remember the name exactly, but I think you should take them. It's on the 1st Street and 2nd Avenue, I guess. They have amazing customer service, and as I said, their food is really delicious. I think they would enjoy that. But if they're not a big fan of Italian food, I think they might like something. If you think they might like something more oriental, there is a great Chinese restaurant just on the opposite side of the same street. They have really great Chinese and Vietnamese cuisine over there, and the customer service is very good. And they have good prices as well. Well, the Italian restaurant might be a little bit expensive, but if they really like pizza, you should definitely try that out.
Okay, so based off this criteria, on a CLB level of 12, what do you think she got? Just yell it out.
8.
6, 8,
9.
9,
11.
11,
Yeah.
10.
10.
Alright, so I'm happy to prove some of you wrong because she actually got a 10. And let's explain why. So the next page, page 3, is a transcript of what she said. So what we've done is that we've highlighted several things. So when someone gets a 10, it means that they've done a lot of things right. What stands out here is how coherent this response is. She has a solid beginning, middle, and end. She provides plenty of strong reasons for her recommendations. It's easy to follow the flow of her response, and she includes useful information. She also includes useful information for her recommendations. It's easy she includes useful information together with convincing support. She also has a natural use of high-level vocabulary, so we can see, like, we've underlined several things. For example, she says food preferences. If you have a low level of English, like, you will likely not say the word preferences, right? And she also says things such as, for example, opposite side of the same street. So these are phrases and words that stand out. She also has an informal but lively tone that's perfect for this situation. To score higher, she could have included a few high-level transitions or linking phrases, and perhaps worked on improving her pronunciation. So that was a 10. So let's go to a second sample response. Okay? So, same situation. I want you to look at this rubric, and I want you to think about, you know, what do you think this next speaker got?
This is my mom. I live here in Canada and she lives back home in my country, Guyana. She's been ill these past few months and it has taken a toll on her. I try to make time for her in the morning, and when I'm speaking to her and she goes, "Oh, I'm in so much pain," I say to her, "Mom, you woke up this morning, the sun is bright outside, there's so many things to be happy about. It could have been worse, you've made it through the night." And she would start laughing and say, "You always say these things to me." I go, "Yes, because you're my mom and I love you and I want to be there for you." I try to talk to her in the morning and evening so that she doesn't feel left out or she doesn't miss me too much or that I cannot be there for her. But the most important thing is hearing her smile when she comes on and she says to me, "Oh, I know you're going to tell me something good today." Of course I want to make them happy always. I wish I could be there for her. But since I cannot, I make the time to talk to her and to listen to her and to advise her and to be there for her. And whenever she has new medications, I look it up online.
Okay, so let's review. What do you think she got?
8.
Okay, and like, what's your justification? Like, let's look at this rubric. Like, what do you think she did well on?
I think what she said was not completely relevant to the subject.
Yeah, so task fulfillment.
Yeah, she was very fluent.
Yes, so content coherence.
Yeah, and I think it's very similar to previous sample because she could use more intricate words or phrases. So I think she has got 10, I think.
All right. Yeah, so I mean, you do point out that she does have pretty good grammar and sentence structure, variety of sentence types. What else?
She also didn't finish in time.
Yeah, she got cut off a little bit, but that's okay. But I'm happy to announce that you are correct. She also got a 10. And let's explain why. So there's also the transcript on page 4. So the reason why she got a 10 was for content coherence and also task fulfillment, so great job. In 60 seconds, she succeeds in telling us a great deal about a difficult situation. She draws us into the story, and we really get a sense of what's going on with her and her mother. In this case, the test taker is very skillful. You can see that she also uses a number of high-level collocations, which we've underlined, and she also has a good sense of grammar. The weakest area for this test taker is listenability. She rushes too much as she speaks because she has so much to say, and her delivery is somewhat flat and monotone. With better delivery skills, she might have been able to improve her score. Alright, let's go for one more sample speaking response. So here's the clip. So
I would like to describe you the scene at the Al's Cafe. It's on the busy street where people are walking, having a good walk, and inside the store there are some friends who are chatting over the place.
Justify your opinion based on this.
8.
So like, where did this test taker do well? This test taker was just kind of like, and this, and this, and this, right? Like a robot. So like, it would have been better to can be able to connect more and more tell a story, right? Yeah, so I'm happy to announce that you're also really good at this now. This test taker did get a 7. And the reason why this test taker's strongest performance areas are task fulfillment and vocabulary. He addressed the task requirements by describing some of the key elements of the scene, and he fills the speaking time. His vocabulary is mixed, but he's able to use some higher level collocations effectively. There are significant problems with the content coherence and listenability. There is a lack of detail, and it's not always clear how one aspect of the image relates to another, which makes the description hard to follow at times. He also has a really flat tone. He sounds like he's bored and he needs a nap, and no rater wants to hear that. I'm sure you don't want to hear it either. And there are a couple of recurring problems with the sentence structure. So we're going to go over 2 quick sample writing responses now. Okay? So this is the question. I'll give you a couple minutes to read over it, and then the transcript is on page 7. So I want you to read the question, the instructions, and also next I want you to read the task, the sample, and then I want you to guess what score this test taker got based off the criteria.
Excuse me, the order of the task starts with first is the reading and then
listening.
Listening, okay, listening and
reading,
speaking, right?
Writing and speaking.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I'll send you a bunch of Kale resources. Yeah, we just wasn't expecting that. Oh no, don't worry. There's resources, and also like since Kale is quite new, there's a lot of free resources. Yeah. For example, Kale Accelerate. I think it's still free. So it usually costs like.
I'm not resident, so I don't have a problem.
No, yeah.
It's free.
Well, no. The test itself you have to pay for, but the resource, the study resource, the online study resource. Last time I checked, the Kale. So the online study program is still free. Yeah. So yeah. So I can show you. So. So if you can recommend. Okay, so this is the Kale website, and then there's a lot of free resources. Oh no, this used to be free. This used to be free. Yeah. So like this is a really good book. So basically this book is free. You can download it. There's a lot of materials in this book. They also give you study tips, and they go over exactly what there is on each question. So and then you can see like the structure of it.
Does it have to go like that?
Yeah, Kale or Kale.ca. Yeah. CA. Yeah. And then you can see the types of questions that they ask. There's also a lot of okay, so there's also a lot of free webinars, like more webinars than there are for CELPIP actually. So if you go to test takers and then go to webinars, there's free webinars for each component. So like there's like listening and speaking, free, 90 minutes. There's writing, like we don't have like a CELPIP writing. Speaking is free workshop. And then this is just an overview. So yeah, so go to care.ca and then look for this one. Webinars, workshops, and courses. Yeah, no problem. And also when you register for a care.ca account, you get a free practice test. Yes, thank you. All right, so what do you think this test taker got on a CELPIP level of 12?
7 or 8.
8. And why?
12? 9.
I think the grammar was one of his drawbacks.
Okay.
Just at the start. You have to get the... He had a bad start.
No, it was a good
And also weak lexical resources. We
Okay.
could have more options.
I'm happy also to prove you all wrong again because this test taker got a 10.
Oh.
Yeah, so the CELPIP is not that hard. Okay, so let me explain why. The writer expresses his ideas clearly and precisely. He expands each idea with relevant and detailed examples. He has an excellent command of grammar and sentence structure. Notice the variety of sentence types and lengths. He also has an impressive range, vocabulary range. For example, interacting with, fatal, to be better, assist, to make the right food choices, based on, may I suggest, etc. To get a higher score, he could have done a better job of his formatting. For example, paragraphs 3 and 4 should have been combined. He should have added a sign-off and also avoided awkward phrasing such as list of ingredients will be widely received. Alright, so we have another sample response and then I'll answer all your questions. So this is the instructions and then you can see on page 8 sample response. This one is shorter.
Producing clean media. According to my opinion, according to your opinion, producing print version. The reason has been disadvantages of the food. Explaining the whole. That's all it's example for the one that everyone knows and we name and keys cut down. بیشتر از 5 تا شاید زمانی میشه باشه این همه نوشتیم فرقش نمیشه اختیار نداشت آره دوست خواست گذاشت everyone needs to return from its manufacturing place. Good. Color. پیریودش رو نقطه یا این پیریود for example there you period which for instance by showing the percentage of the transfers manufacturing place from the manufacturing so آره کوچیک بود 12 page اما به خدا مثل چیزی نوشتیم با خوش دست میزدن تو گوشمون خودشون
او این هم هفتش معادل 6
هفته 6 آنسته 8 شنی هفته آنسته
هفته آنسته میشه 9
این 10 بیشتر تا 12 شویش داشتیم 10 بگیریم خود 9 بگیریم
All right, so what do you think this test taker got?
5. Solid point. 6 or 7 compared to the previous one.
Yeah, the previous one was definitely better, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's justify our answer because a lot of things in life you need to justify things. So, why? Where did the test taker do well?
Punctuation errors.
Yeah.
Lacks commas in the last sentence.
Yeah.
Punctuation, all the problems.
So one of the reasons why we're doing this is that you know, like other people have made mistakes, so you know what not to make, right? So, all right. So this test taker got a level 7.
What?
Yeah, 7. And I'll tell you why, because she's able to provide relevant information, and if you stick with it and work to understand what's written, it actually provides a complete response. She also uses transitions appropriately, for example, first of all, secondly, and finally, right? So transitions, such as first of all, secondly, finally, that's a tip that we will also recommend that you use. First of all, second of all, finally. And the mix of appropriate, she also has a mix of appropriate vocabulary. For example, good alternative source of information, stop producing print media, manufacturing, transportation, doorstep. But she also has a natural use of other words and phrases. For example, according to my opinion. You don't say according to my opinion, you say in my opinion. The reader has to work much too hard to understand and follow this response, which indicates problems in readability especially. This writer also has ongoing problems with grammar resulting in awkward phrasing, run-on sentences, punctuation issues, and so on. And these problems really impact the score. So ultimately, the key strategies: know what to expect, know how to use timer tools, and stay calm and focused. So that's the end of my PowerPoint. So what I'm going to do now is I just really wanted to thank you all for coming to this information session and workshop. I really hope you found it useful. So as another gift to you, we wanted to, hold on. As another gift to you, because we really truly want you to succeed on the CELPIP test, if you go to this URL, celpip.ch/CanadaEast2019, and join our free mailing list, you can unsubscribe anytime. So when you join our mailing list, you'll get information, for example, on our upcoming webinars, and also upcoming information sessions, and also you'll get to know more about the other CELPIP like products, for example, like study materials. Yeah, so join our mailing list, and then we'll also give you a digital copy of the guidebook for test takers, which will basically cover a lot of really relevant details to what the CELPIP is. But what we'll also give you is that we'll also give you a coupon so that you can get 3 sets of practice tests for free. So this is called the SelfIt General Test, Practice Tests 1, 2, and 3, and it's worth $75. So as a gift to you for taking the time out of your day to come to this workshop, we're going to give you this. But you won't get the discount code and also the guidebook unless you complete this, like join our mailing list. So I'll show you which product that you'll get, okay? So if you go to selpip.ca, this is the product that you'll get. This is how you, once you get the discount code, you go to study materials, and then, so each set of practice tests, you get 2. So therefore you get 6 practice tests. So scroll down all the way to where it says special offer, sets 1, 2, and 3. It's worth $75. So what you do is that you click on this, okay? And then you click add to cart. And then you have to create an account, a selpip.ca an account. So you go to proceed to sign in and then create and sign up for an account now. And then just fill out your information. So, and then one of the next steps is that you will put in the discount code, and after you put in the discount code, if your total says 0, you won't need to provide your credit card, anything like that. You don't need to provide anything like that. And then you'll get your online practice test sets 1, 2, and 3 in your account right away. So just to recap, the product is this. Hold on. And I'll also send Cavill the URL. So I don't know if you caught any of that, but basically to thank everyone for coming, and also to thank you as well for organizing this. We're going to give everyone here a link to sign up for our newsletter. But in this newsletter, people will get a guidebook about the test, but they'll also get a discount code to get 3 sets of practice tests for free. So I'll send you the link, and then you can share with the attendees. So basically, in case you didn't get it, it is the selpip.ca/Canada East 2019. So make sure you select PAN settlement, okay, and select that you're a test taker, and then you'll get the guidebook and also the discount code.
So you have to go to the other link.
Yeah, so selpip.ca/Canada East 2019.
And you will provide us with the discounts with the link that you will send to Cover?
Yeah, so I'll send him an email, and then I'll send him this URL in case you don't catch it, and then Cavill can share the link with you all, and then you can sign up for a mailing list here. You get this download, and you also get the download for the code right away.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the machine works so that the software works. So I think you will get it automatically. I could be wrong, but you'll definitely get the discount code, and then you can get the set of online practice tests for free.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so what we're gonna do now is that I'm happy to answer questions, and then I'm going to go over some really important pages on the selpip.ca website. So does anyone have any questions? All right, so I'm going to show you some really important pages that I would recommend. So selpip.ca, one of the key pages that I would like to point you to is test preparation and sample test. So when you open a selpip.ca account, it's free. You also get a free practice test. So basically,